Have you ever wondered why we forget things so easily? Names, facts, even entire lessons we just studied. The truth is, memory isn't just about storing information. It's about how we process, connect, and retrieve it. And if you want to learn faster and retain longer, you need to understand how your memory actually works. Let's break it down. Memory has three main stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Encoding is when your brain first takes in information, like reading a textbook or listening to a lecture. Storage is what happens when that information gets saved, either for a few seconds or for years. And retrieval is the act of pulling that information back out when you need it. Here's the catch. If you don't encode the information deeply, it never really gets stored. And if it's not stored well, you won't be able to retrieve it later. That's why reading something over and over doesn't guarantee you'll remember it. It's passive. The brain doesn't value repetition alone. It values meaning and connection. There are also two types of memory to understand. First, declarative memory. Facts, dates, vocabulary, anything you consciously recall. Second, procedural memory. Skills like driving, typing, or solving equations. What most people want when they say, "I want to remember everything," is sharper declarative memory. But improving that requires strategy, not just effort. Now, here is something surprising. Your brain actually tries to forget. This is called memory decay. If a piece of information doesn't seem too useful, emotional, or connected to something meaningful, it gets deleted fast. But if it's repeated, used, and connected to what you already know, it gets stronger. This is why random trivia disappears quickly, but emotional memories stay. The brain is wired for relevance, not randomness. Another important insight: the more connections you make to a piece of information, the stronger the memory becomes. This is called elaborative encoding. When you tie a new concept to something familiar, or better yet, create a story around it, you build a web in your brain that's harder to break. Think of memory not as a file cabinet, but as a dynamic network. The more you activate it, challenge it, and use it, the more powerful it becomes. So instead of trying to memorize by sheer force, we need to work with our brain, not against it. And in the next step, we will explore one of the most effective tools for doing just that: active recall. A method that flips the way you study and massively boosts retention. Once you understand how to make your brain pull information instead of just receiving it, your memory will never be the same again. Most people think learning means putting information into your brain, but real learning happens when you try to pull it out. That's the foundation of one of the most powerful number techniques we know: active recall. Active recall is simple, but incredibly effective. Instead of just reading or highlighting your notes, you close the book, look away, and try to recall what you just learned without looking. It feels harder, and that's exactly why it works. Your brain is being forced to retrieve the information, and that strengthens the memory trace far more than passive review ever could. Here is why this matters. The brain thrives on challenge. When you struggle to remember something and then successfully recall it, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating stronger neural pathways. That struggle, that mental effort, it's not a sign of failure, but a sign of growth. In fact, studies show that students who test themselves after learning remember significantly more than those who simply reread the material. It's not the time spent studying that matters, it's the method. Let's take an example. Say you are learning about the planets. Instead of reading the list over and over, you read it once and then look away and try to name them from memory. You probably won't get all of them right the first time, and that's good, because when you go back and fill in the gaps, your brain pays more attention and it sticks. This technique works for almost anything: definitions, concepts, dates, names, formulas. And it doesn't require any fancy tools, just a notebook and a curious mind. But if you want to take it further, use flashcards, not to review, but to test. Apps like Anki or physical flashcards can help you quiz yourself daily. But here's the key. Don't flip the card until you actually try to answer. The brain only grows through effort. There is also a bonus effect. Active recall increases your confidence. The more you test yourself and succeed, the more you feel ready, whether it's for exam, a speech, or a real life situation. Remember this, the brain is not a sponge, it's a muscle, and muscles grow when you use them, not when you just watch someone else use theirs. The next step, we will build on this technique by introducing spaced repetition, a smart way to time your reviews for maximum retention, and to make sure you never forget what you have worked so hard to learn. Have you ever learned something, remembered it perfectly the next day, and then completely forgotten it a week later? That's not flaw in your brain, it's how memory naturally works. But there is a simple science-backed way to fight this. It's called spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is the idea that when you review something, is just as important as how you review it. Instead of cramming the same material over and over in one sitting, you review it at increasing intervals, right before you are about to forget it. Why does this work? Because memory fades over time. This is known as the forgetting curve. After you first learn something, your brain begins to forget it fast. But if you review it right before you forget, the memory becomes stronger. Each time you do this, the curve flattens and the memory lasts long. For example, let's say you study a new concept today. Instead of reviewing it 5 times in one day, you review it once tomorrow, again in 3 days, then week later, and so on. Each review is spaced out just enough to challenge your memory, and that challenge rewires your brain to hold on to it longer. And here's the best part. Over time, you need fewer and fewer reviews. You spend less time studying, but remembers more. It's smart learning, not hard learning. Spaced repetition works beautifully with active recall. In fact, combining them creates a supercharged memory system. You don't just review, you test yourself at spaced interval. That's how long-term retention happens. Now, how do you implement this? You can use apps like Anki, Remnote, or SuperMemo. They are designed around spaced repetition algorithms. They track your performance and automatically schedule reviews for you at the perfect time. Or you can go manual. Mark down review days in the notebook, like 1 day later, 3 days later, 7 days later, and so on. The key is consistency. Review right before forgetting. It might feel like strange at first, because the gaps between reviews can feel too long. But that's exactly what makes your memory work harder and grow stronger. So don't rely on last minute cramming. Use your brain's natural rhythm. When you respect the forgetting curve, you beat it. The next step, you are going to unlock a technique used by scientists, teachers, and even world-class leaders. The Feynman technique, a method that transforms complex information into clear, unforgettable understanding. One of the biggest reasons we forget things isn't that we didn't study them. It's that we never really understood them in the first place. That's where the Feynman technique comes in. It's a simple method that forces clarity, reveals gaps in knowledge, and makes your memory deeper and more durable. Here is how it works. Step 1. Choose a concept you want to learn. Write the name of it at the top of a blank page. Step 2. Explain it in your own words, as if you were teaching it to a complete beginner. No jargons, no complex terms, just plain simple language. Now step 3. Review your explanation and identify where you got stuck, where you had to fake it, or where your logic didn't hold up. That's your learning gap. Go back, study that part again, and rewrite it more clearly. And finally, step 4. Simplify and connect. Refine your explanation until it flows easily, and link it to something you already know. Why is this so powerful? Because when you can teach something simply, it means you have truly internalized it. You have transformed a raw fact into your own understanding. And that kind of memory sticks. Most people confuse recognition with understanding. They read a paragraph and note and think, yeah, I get it. But if you ask them to explain it without the book in front of them, they would freeze. The Feynman technique forces you to do exactly that. It turns passive familiarity into active mastery. Even better, it activates what's called elaborative rehearsal. You are not just repeating information, you are reprocessing it, organizing it, and making sense of it. That's the kind of encoding that leads to long-term memory. And here's the bonus. The act of simplifying makes your brain more efficient. You start thinking in clear patterns, and you train yourself to avoid complexity for the sake of it. And that clarity shows up in everything you do, from learning faster to speaking more confidently. Use this technique with anything: math, formulas, scientific concept, historical events, philosophical ideas, whatever it is. If you can't teach it, you don't know it. And once you can teach it, you will never forget it. The next step will take a turn into the visual world of memory. How to use mind maps and mental imagery to boost recall, organize knowledge, and make learning more intuitive than ever before. Our brains are naturally wired for images, not lists. That's why you can recall a face you saw 5 years ago, but struggle to remember what you read last week. If you want to boost your memory, it's time to tap into the power of visualization and mind mapping. Let's start with visualization. This simply means creating stronger mental images around the things you want to remember. The more vivid, unusual, or emotionally charged the image, the more your brain holds on it. For example, if you're trying to remember the mitochondria is the powerhouse of cell, don't just repeat the sentence. Instead, imagine a tiny factory inside a cell, bursting with energy and glowing like a power station. The sillier or more dramatic your image, the better your brain remembers it. Why? Because the brain prioritizes what stands out, and ordinary facts usually don't. Now let's add structure to that. That's where mind mapping comes in. A mind map is a visual tool that lets you organize information the way your brain naturally thinks, in connections, not straight lines. Start with the central idea in the middle of that page. Then branch out with the related subtopics, and then smaller branches from those. You're literally building a visual web of knowledge. This taps into spatial memory, your brain's ability to remember where something is on a page, not just what it says. Here is what makes mind mapping so powerful. It forces active engagement with the material. It reveals relationships between ideas. It creates a visual structure that's easier to recall than a paragraph or text. The act of drawing it out helps reinforce that information. And when you revisit that map later, your brain doesn't just remember the content. It remembers the layout, the connections, the flow. That's layered memory. Visualization and mind maps also help with creativity. They show you the big picture while letting you dive into details. And they're excellent for reviewing complex topics, preparing for exams, or brainstorming ideas. So next time you're studying something important, don't just write it down. Draw it out, picture it, make it come alive in your mind. The next step, we'll explore a set of ancient yet incredibly effective memory tools, mnemonics and memory palaces. These methods have helped memory champions memorize thousands of pieces of information, and they can work for you too. What if you could walk through your house and instantly recall everything you need to know for an exam, a presentation, or even a new language? That's exactly what mnemonics and memory palaces can help you do. Let's start with the mnemonics. These are mental shortcuts, techniques that help you remember complex information by turning it into something simpler, more vivid, or more memorable. For example, to remember the order of mathematical operations, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, use the phrase, "Please excuse me dear Aunt Sally." It's silly, but it works. Why? Because your brain loves patterns, stories, and rhythm. It's easier to recall a funny phrase than a dry list. There are many kinds of mnemonics. Acronyms like ROYG, BIV for the colors of the rainbow, rhymes and raw songs which use sound to anchor memory. Chunking, where you group info into smaller, manageable units, like how we remember phone numbers. Number letter codes, where each number corresponds to a consonant sound, allow you to turn numbers into words. But the real game changer, memory palaces. Also known as the method of Loki. This technique dates back to ancient Greece and Rome. It's still used today by memory champions to memorize decks of cards, long speeches, and even entire books. Here is how it works. First, choose a familiar place, your home, your school, your route to work. Then visualize walking through that place and placing piece of information in specific spots. The crazier and more visual the information, the better. Later, when you mentally walk through that same route, you will find the information exactly where you left it, like picking up items on a treasure hunt. Let's say you are trying to memorize the planets. You could place a giant ball of fire, Mercury, on your front porch, a woman in a green veil, Venus in your hallway, Earth spinning on your living room couch, Mars tossing red dust in your kitchen. Each stop holds a new image, locked into a space you already know by heart. Why does this work? Because the brain is amazing at remembering places and visual stories. By combining location, imagination, and information, you are turning abstract facts into unforgettable scenes. And the best part, you can build multiple palaces, each holding different categories of knowledge. These are not just tricks, they are tools. Tools that align perfectly with how the brain evolved to remember things, through space, emotion, and imagery. The next step, we'll talk about something equally important: how your emotions, focus, and mental state affect your memory, and how to use your psychology to your advantage while learning. Memory isn't just about techniques, it's about your mind and your feelings at the moment of learning. Believe it or not, your emotions and focus are some of the strongest forces shaping what you remember and what you forget. Let's start with the focus. When you are distracted or multitasking, your brain's ability to encode information drops drastically. That's because attention acts like a spotlight in your brain. It highlights what's important and filters out the rest. Without focused attention, new information is like a photo taken in the dark, blurry and unusable. That's why even the best memory techniques fail if you are tired, stressed, or interrupted. You want to create an environment that supports deep focus, whether that means turning off your phone, finding a quiet spot, or using short, intense study sessions with breaks in between. Now, emotions. Emotional experiences are the brain's way of tagging memories as important. Have you ever noticed how you can remember exactly where you were during a powerful event, good or bad? That's because the amygdala, the brain's emotion center, signals the hippocampus to prioritize those memories. You can use this to your advantage. Linking new information to emotional stories, excitement, humor, or even curiosity can make your memory stronger. This is why storytelling is such a powerful teaching tool. It creates emotional hooks. Stress, however, has double-edged effect. Moderate stress can enhance memory forming by increasing alertness. But too much stress floods your brain with cortisol, which blocks memory encoding and retrieval. That's why cramming late at night or learning under pressure often backfires. Finally, mindset matters. Believing that you can improve your memory, what psychologists call a growth mindset, actually helps you learn better. When you approach learning with curiosity and confidence, your brain engages more fully, and memory pathways strengthen faster. So to maximize memory, manage your environment to support focus, link learning to positive emotions, and cultivate a mindset that embraces growth and effort. The next part, we'll explore how to optimize your sleep and nutrition. Two surprisingly powerful factors that dramatically affect how your brain stores and recalls information. When it comes to memorizing information quickly and retaining it long term, your brain needs more than just techniques. It needs proper care. Two of the most powerful yet often overlooked factors are sleep and nutrition. Let's start with the sleep. Sleep isn't just rest. It's when your brain does its most important work for memory. During certain sleep stages, especially deep sleep and REM sleep, Your brain consolidates the information you learned during the day. It's like your brain's filing system, organizing memories and deciding which ones to keep. If you skip one sleep, this consolidation process gets disturbed. That means no matter how hard you study, your brain won't store that information well. In fact, studies show that people who sleep after learning new information remember it much better than those who stay awake. But quality matters too. Deep, uninterrupted sleep is essential. That's why it's better to get 7 to 9 hours of good sleep than to pull an all-nighter. Now, nutrition. Your brain is a hungry organ, using about 20% of body's energy. The food you eat directly affects how well it functions. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fish like salmon and walnuts support brain cell health. Antioxidants in berries protect brain cells from damage. Complex carbohydrates provide steady energy, while avoiding sugar spikes that can impair focus. Don't forget hydration. Even mild dehydration can reduce cognitive performance and memory. Caffeine can help in moderation by boosting alertness and focus. But overdosing it can lead to anxiety and disturbed sleep, which hurt memory. Finally, vitamins like B6, B12, and folate play roles in brain health and neurotransmitter production. Deficiencies here can cause memory problems. So, to fuel your brain for memory mastery, prioritize regular quality sleep, eat a balanced diet rich in brain boosting nutrients, stay hydrated, use stimulants like caffeine wisely. Taking care of your brain's physical needs sets the stage for all the memory techniques we have discussed to work their magic. Learning quickly and remembering well isn't just about what you study. It's also about when and how you study. Smart time management and study scheduling are essential to mastering any subject efficiently. First, break your study time into focused sessions with clear goals. The popular Pomodoro technique, studying intensely for 25 minutes, then taking 5 minutes breaks, help maintaining high concentration and prevents burnout. After 4 cycles, take a longer break. Why does this work? Because your brain isn't designed for long, unbroken periods of focus. Short burst of effort is followed by rest. Allow your brain to process information and recharge. Next, plan your study schedule around your personal energy levels. If you are a morning person, tackle the hardest material first thing. If you are sharper in the afternoon or evening, schedule your most demanding task then. Combine this with the spaced repetition method we discussed earlier. Schedule reviews strategically. Don't cram everything into one day. Spacing your study sessions improves retention and reducing stress. Another important concept is interleaving, mixing different topics or skills in a single study session. Instead of spending hours on just one subject, alternate between related topics. This forces your brain to constantly switch gears, making your memory more flexible and robust. Also, set realistic goals. Avoid overwhelming yourself with too much material in one sitting. Smaller, consistent progress adds up to big results over time. Finally, protect your study time. Turn off distractions, set boundaries, and create a dedicated space for learning. By managing your time wisely and scheduling your studies strategically, you give your memory the best chance to absorb and retain information. Next, we will explore how to leverage technology and apps to support your memory and learning journey in the digital age. Learning fast and remembering well isn't just about reading or listening. It's about capturing information in a way that your brain can easily digest and recall. That's where effective note-taking and summarization comes in. First, good note-taking isn't about writing down everything word for word. It's about actively processing what you hear or read and condensing it into your own words. This process forces your brain to engage deeply, which strengthens memory. Try using techniques like the Cornell method. Divide your page into sections for notes, cues, and summaries. Write main ideas and key details in the note section. Later, add questions or keywords in the cues column. At the bottom, summarize the whole page in your own words. Another powerful tool is mind mapping, which we discussed earlier. This lets you visualize relationships between ideas instead of just listing facts. When you summarize, focus on the big picture. Ask yourself, what are the core ideas? How do they connect? This helps shift your memory from isolated facts to meaningful understanding. Digital tools like Notion, Evernote, or OneNote are great for organizing notes. But even simple paper notebooks work well if you keep them structured. Don't forget the power of reviewing your notes regularly, using the active recall and spaced repetition on methods we talked about earlier. Summarization isn't a one-time thing, it's a part of ongoing conversation between you and the material. Lastly, try the teach back method. Explain your notes out loud to yourself or someone else. This cements your understanding and highlights areas you need to revisit. By capturing and summarizing effectively, you're not just throwing information. You're transforming it into a knowledge that sticks. Next, we'll dive into how to manage your time smartly, because even the best memory techniques need the right schedule to shine. In today's digital age, technology isn't just a distraction. It can be one of your greatest allies in memorizing and learning quickly. The right tools and apps can supercharge your memory techniques and help you stay organized and consistent. Let's start with the spaced repetition apps like Anki, SuperMemo, and RemNote. These apps use algorithms to schedule your reviews exactly when you're about to forget, saving you time and boosting long-term retention. They allow you to create digital flashcards with text, images, even audio, making learning dynamic and flexible. Next, note-taking apps like Notion, Evernote, and OneNote help you capture, organize, and search your notes efficiently. With these, you can embed images, links, and even videos all in one place, so your study materials are rich and accessible. For visual learners, tools like MindMeister or Xmind makes mind mapping easy and interactive, helping you see connections between ideas in real time. Some apps focus on focus and productivity, like Forest or Focus at Will, which use timers, music, or gamification to help you maintain concentration during study sessions. But technology works best when paired with good habits. Use these tools to complement techniques like active recall, spaced repetition, and the Feynman technique, not as a crutch. Remember, the goal is to enhance your brain's natural memory abilities, not replace them. When used wisely, technology can organize your learning, track your progress, and keep you motivated. The right mindset and tools, you are equipped to learn faster, remember better, and achieve more. That wraps up our journey on how to memorize everything in a short time. Start applying these techniques today and watch your memory transform. Thanks for learning with me.